Hey there, scientists! Welcome to Room 9, our region's largest classroom. I'm so glad you're here with me today to learn more about the world around you. My name is Mrs. Newby, and I teach at Flint Park Elementary School, which is in the school district of University City. Today, I'm going to be teaching science for first grade, but as always, everyone is welcome to learn with us today. So, in order for us to get started, we need to remember everything we've learned so far about patterns in the sky. We've learned so much about the sun and the earth and what happens out in space for us to experience day and night, for us to experience years, and also seasons. There's so much that's happening, and we've been talking so much about the sun and the patterns we see in the day sky. Well, today we're going to focus about patterns we notice in the night sky, because there are patterns that go on even though it's dark outside. There's still things that are happening that make patterns. So we're going to focus specifically on the moon patterns and also find out what type of patterns stars make. It's a pretty exciting day today, so let's get started. So what I have here are two different pictures of a night sky. Now, this one I drew of just a favorite playground that I love going to. And in the sky, I drew the moon like this because I've seen the moon kind of like, in that type of shape. But then I asked my friend Mia to draw the night sky also because I wanted to see how she would draw it. And she drew a moon also, but her moon is a different shape than my moon. So then I started to think, that is so true. Sometimes I see the moon like this, sometimes I see the moon like this, and sometimes I don't see the moon at all. So then I started to ask myself, why does the moon look different on different days? And we're going to explore that today and find out what pattern the moon makes and why we see the moon in different shapes like this. All right, so we already know that the Earth is spinning two different ways. It is rotating to give us day and night, but it's also revolving around the sun to give us our years and also to give us those seasons because the Earth is tilted. Now, while all of that spinning is going on in space, there's a different type of revolution that's happening. Can you guess what type of revolution that is? It is the moon. The moon is also revolving, but it's not revolving around the sun. It's actually revolving around the Earth. So it's going in circles like this around the Earth. Now that is one reason why we see different shapes of the moon. Now the most especially important thing to know about Mr. Moon here is that he doesn't have his own light. He doesn't shine by himself. The moon actually gets some help. Can you think where the moon gets its light from? Yes, the moon gets its light from the sun, just like we get our light from the sun. The sun gives us so much light. It lights up the Earth and the moon. And that is the main reason why we see different moon shapes in the sky. As the moon is revolving around the Earth, it's going to be at different parts of the Earth compared to where the sun is. So for example, if you're the Earth, sometimes the moon is going to be in the middle between the Earth and the sun. And when the sun is shining, the light that is coming from the sun is shining on the side of the moon that is not facing the Earth. So when you look up at the sky sometimes, you may not see a moon because the side of the moon that's being shown or that is shining from the sun is not facing the Earth. So that is called a new moon. Now, as the moon continues to revolve around the Earth, you'll eventually see a teeny tiny crescent that looks like this, sort of. So you'll see like a sliver. And whenever you see a sliver of the moon like this, we call it a crescent moon. And as the moon continues to revolve around the Earth, you'll eventually sometimes see half of the moon. And whenever you see half of the moon like this, it's called a quarter moon. Can you say quarter moon? And when it continues to revolve around the earth, eventually you'll see the whole entire moon just like this. Whoa, look how bright it is. And that's because the earth is in between the sun and the moon, so the part of the moon that is shining from the sun is facing the earth. And then whenever the moon continues to revolve, you'll start to slowly see the moon disappear. So you'll see a sliver of it disappear, and then half of it disappear, and then a lot more of it disappear, and then you'll go right back to a new moon or a no moon, because now the moon is in between the earth and the sun again. So it is called a pattern or a cycle because it continues happening over and over again as the moon is revolving around the sun. It starts to slowly appear. It starts out as a new moon, and then a crescent moon, a quarter moon, a full moon, and then it continues, and then it starts to slowly disappear. There's our quarter moon again, but now it's on the other side. A crescent moon, it's on the other side, and back to new moon. So it continues to happen over and over and over again. So whenever you see a quarter moon, a few days later, you're gonna know that it's gonna be a full moon. And it's just gonna continue being that cycle. That is the coolest thing about our Earth and what's happening in space, is that we can always predict or guess what will happen next because they are patterns that continue to repeat themselves. I want to show you an example of the different moon phases in a different way, and it's in a yummy way. I hope you are ready. Okay, so now that we know that the moon also has a pattern that happens, we are going to show the pattern using yummy cookies. Oh my goodness. I'm just like staring at these cookies and I just want to just stuff them in my mouth. Okay, so the first one that we kind of talked about was whenever the moon is in between the earth and the sun, and whenever the sun is shining, the part of the moon that is being lit up is not facing the earth. So we call that a new moon. So I have this cookie here that is all black. It's not lit up at all because the other side is being lit and we don't see it on earth. So we're going to call this a new moon. So it's when we do not see a moon in the sky. Now, after we see a new moon, then we start to slowly see tiny pieces and parts of the moon because it's starting to revolve and different parts of that moon is going to be facing the sun. So what I have here is a cookie, and I am going to slice the icing so that it looks like a crescent moon. So I'm going to slowly kind of just like mark on it. There we go. And scrape off this part because this is not being shown on Earth. The sun is not shining on it. So we got a tiny crescent moon. Look how cute that crescent moon is. Tiny and yummy, right? So after a crescent moon, we start to see a little bit more of the moon, and we call that a quarter moon. So it's pretty much whenever we see exactly half of the moon, because half of it is being lit up by the sun and the other half is not. It's kind of cool that the sun helps light it up like that, because without the sun, the moon would still be there, but we would never be able to see it. So we have a quarter moon. So after a quarter moon, we actually have another type. It's not fully the entire moon just yet, but it's the opposite of a crescent moon. So we see most of the sun, most of the moon, but not the whole thing. A tiny sliver of it is not showing. So what we call that is actually a gibbous moon. Can you say gibbous? Yeah, so that is when the tiny crescent part, like a crescent part of it, is not showing, but it looks like most of it is showing, but there's just, again, a tiny part that's still not being lit by the sun. So we call that a gibbous. And notice that the part of the moon is slowly starting to appear on the same side. And what happens after a gibbous moon? What do you guys think? Yes, a full moon. That's when the earth is in between the sun and the moon. So when the sun is shining, the whole side of the earth that is shining, the whole side of the moon that is shining is facing the earth. So we call that a full moon. Now that we see that it started to slowly appear, now it's going to start slowly disappearing. So we're going to start kind of making it slowly disappear. So the next phase is going to be another gibbous moon, because a tiny sliver of it is going to start to disappear. So you start to see the moon from right to left, and then it starts to disappear from right to left. So notice after this giant moon, the right side of it, the tiny sliver of the right side, disappeared. And we still call this a gibbous moon because most of it is showing, but not the whole thing. What do you think happens after a gibbous? Whenever it starts to slowly disappear. Yes, so a little bit more starts disappearing. So that will give us a quarter moon. So let's slice off a quarter moon. So then now this side of the moon is showing. Notice that when it starts to slowly appear, this side of the moon is showing, and now it's starting to disappear. So we see this side of the moon. And then what's next after a quarter moon? You guessed it, a crescent moon again. I always think of like those croissants, like the like a breakfast type of bread that we eat. They're called a croissant. They're kind of like curved a little bit. It kind of reminds me of a crescent moon. So that's how I remember that word. So now most of the moon is disappearing. So let's slice off most of it and leave a tiny crescent. And again, notice that when it starts to disappear, the other side of the moon is visible in the from the first part. And then what happens after this crescent moon? We're back here to a new moon. The whole thing disappears because the sun is not shining on the part that we see on Earth. So it continues to be a cycle. It's so awesome how we get to see these patterns happen in the sky. So I want to challenge you, and I want you to look up at the sky tonight and try to figure out what phase of the moon do you see. Is it a new moon? Is it a crescent moon? Maybe it's a gibbous moon where most of it is showing but not all of it. Is it a quarter moon? Or do we have a full moon tonight? I want you to find out, okay? It's so cool. And maybe you can try to track to see how long it takes for the new phase to come. So maybe tomorrow, is it the same type of moon shape or is it a different one? Another important thing to notice is that it takes about a whole month for the moon to revolve around the Earth. So we see all of these moon phases in 1 month. And then when a new month happens, it starts all over again. That's why we get the word month, because of moon month. We know that it takes a whole month for the moon to revolve. So that's why we call it months. Kind of cool how we use those words and it kind of sounds similar. Okay, so I'm so excited for you to find out what phase of the moon it is tonight and maybe see what it is tomorrow or even the next day or the next day. Now we're going to take a look really quickly on patterns of stars. Did you know that stars have patterns? Let's take a look and explore. Man, I had to stop myself from eating those yummy moon phases. They looked so delicious. I had so much fun showing you the different phases with those cookies, and I hope maybe you can explore using cookies and showing your family members the different moon phases. So I want to go back to this question really quick so we can make sure we answer it. The question was, why does the moon look different on different days? And we discovered that the moon doesn't have its own light. It actually gets the light from the sun. And the moon is revolving around the earth. And as it's revolving around the earth, different parts of the moon is shining from the sun. So that's why we see those different shapes of the moon. It doesn't really mean that someone went and ate up the moon. Wouldn't that be kind of funny? The moon is still a big ball, but we only see parts of that ball because of the sun and where the moon is in space as it's revolving. So now that we know the pattern of moons, or our moon, we are going to explore different patterns in the night sky when it comes to stars. So if you look up at the sky sometimes, you'll see so many stars, and some of them are big stars and some of them are itty bitty little stars. And they actually have patterns that a lot of people from a long time ago actually created themselves. And we're going to look to see what those are and how we know which ones are what. So I have this book here called The Stars, and it's from Crabtree Publishing, and it's by Jeff Wimbush. So we're going to kind of take a look at a few pages of this book to see what patterns do we see in stars. Now, if we look at the table of contents, because this is a nonfiction book, we are going to only read maybe 1 or 2 chapters of this book. So I want to read the chapter. It sounds really interesting too. It's called Connect the Dots. Do you like playing those games where there's just like a bunch of numbers on a sheet and you have to connect them in order? That's kind of silly that this chapter is called Connect the Dots. Let's turn to page 16 and find out what that's about. Okay. It says, in the past, people tried to find patterns. We've been talking about patterns this whole time. People try to find patterns in the stars. These patterns are called constellations. Can you say that word? That's a big word. Constellations. People from different times and places made up different constellations and gave them names. So I wonder if that's what they mean by patterns from stars. Spotting a constellation can be difficult. It is hard to know which stars to connect. Often, it doesn't really look like a picture, even after you connect the dots. The stars in the constellations might look as though they are the same distance from Earth. They are not. Some stars are much closer to us than others. So we're going to take a look and explore the different constellations that we see up in the sky. Now, it's a really cool point that they brought up, the fact that not all stars are the same distance. Did you know that our sun is also a star? And the reason why it looks so different than the tiny stars at night is because it's so close to us. It is the closest star that we have to Earth. So we call it our sun because it gives us lots of heat and lots of light, but it's also a star. And all of these other stars that you see at night, there's so many different distances. Some of them are super, super far away, but some of them are a little bit closer. But a lot of scientists called astrologers actually were exploring the different stars, and they noticed that they saw the same stars at night during different points of the year. And they were like, let's play Connect the Dots. And they decided to connect different stars to other stars and make different shapes. And we call those constellations. So, since the Earth is revolving around the sun, we see these constellations at different times of the year. So on your birthday, you will see the same constellation, but I will not see the same constellation as you do on your birthday when it's my birthday, because the Earth is going to be at a different spot in space. So let's explore all these constellations and let's find out which one your constellation is. Okay, so what I have here are all of the constellations and what dates we get to see them in the sky during the year. Because again, the Earth is revolving, and since it's revolving, we're going to see different stars during different times of the year. So if you look closely, you'll see that each constellation represents a specific type of shape, and there's different dates that go with that constellation. So that's what makes it your special constellation, because if your birthday is between these dates, then that's the constellation that you will see on your birthday. For example, the first one here is a Taurus, or we also kind of consider it a bull, and we see the Taurus constellation between April 20th and May 20th. So if your birthday is between that time, then your special constellation is the Taurus. And that is what the constellation looks like. Now, kind of like what the book said, it doesn't really look like pictures, but astrologists just kind of found the stars and connected them together, and they just made a name for it. So this represents a bull, and we call it the Taurus constellation. And then if you see here, there's so many different ones. Gemini is between May 21st and June 20th. Cancer represents kind of like a crab, and it's between June 21st and July 22nd. So if your birthday is between that time, then your special constellation is a Cancer, and that's what it looks like. And then the Leo is like a lion, and that is between July 23rd and August 22nd. And that's what it kind of looks like. It kind of looks like a lion, like sitting down. So some of them maybe look like that shape, but others, not really. The Virgo is August 23rd through September 22nd. A Libra is September 23rd through October 22nd. The Scorpio is October 23rd through November 21st. So that's like a scorpion. And again, it kind of looks like it's a tail right here, so maybe it kind of looks like a scorpion, but who knows. The Sagittarius is November 22nd through December 21st. The Capricorn is December 22nd through January 19th. Aquarius is January 20th through February 18th. Pisces is a special one. Do you know why? That actually is my special constellation, because my birthday is between February 19th and March 20th. My birthday is March 18th. So whenever we are in the month of March and it's around my birthday, we are in space. The Earth is in space where we can see these special stars here, and we're actually able to connect them and see the Pisces. So it represents like two fish. And again, I'm not sure how this looks like two fish, but that's just what it's called, and that's the constellation. And then the last one is the Aries, which is March 21st through April 19th. So maybe looking at these constellations and thinking about when your birthday is, what special constellation is yours? And notice that every constellation has these dark dots, and those are the stars. And they're very specific stars. It's not just a random star that they connected. They picked the stars out, and they specifically connected those special stars in this type of constellation. So I actually want to practice drawing my special constellation. Maybe you guys can grab a piece of paper and a pencil and look for yours and try making your constellation. So let me grab a black marker and let's get started. So, and if you want to make the one that I'm making, because maybe you're not sure which one yours is, that's totally fine. But we're going to go ahead and try to draw this Pisces. Now this one has a lot of stars. There's some that are pretty easy, like this Libra. It kind of looks like a house. But this Pisces looks a little tricky. So I'm going to start by maybe just drawing the stars, and then I'm going to connect them with the dotted line. So let's get started. So I'm going to draw this little dot here, and then I think this one goes here, and then this one looks a little bit smaller. And we got this one in the corner, this one next to it, and then this one here, and then a little baby one. So again, there's different sizes of stars because some of them are closer and some of them are farther. So if they're closer to us, they're probably going to look much bigger. But the smaller ones are probably way, way far away. So that's why they look like different sizes. And then let's do this one, the big one. Okay, now let's go ahead and connect these dots. So I'm just gonna, or stars, not dots, silly. Okay, so that, and then there's my constellation. What do you guys think? Does it kind of look like that one? That was kind of fun. So even looking at the stars and the different sizes that they are and making sure that my constellation has the right size stars and then connecting them in the right order. So I hope you have fun exploring with your constellation and figuring out which one is yours and how to even draw it. You can even do it on black paper with maybe a white crayon, but have fun exploring, and maybe on your birthday, try to see if you can find your special constellation when it's nighttime, as well as looking to see what type of moon phase you have on your birthday also. I hope you have so much fun, and I had an amazing time learning all the patterns that we see in the nighttime sky. I'll see you next time. Bye.
Teaching in Room 9 is made possible with support of Bank of America, Dana Brown Charitable Trust, Emerson, and viewers like you.